The church was filled with the smell of lilies and the sound of quiet sobbing. Nicole Robinson stepped through the double doors of Greater Hope Baptist Church wearing a cream-colored Chanel suit that fit her body like it was made for her. Because it was. Her hair was freshly styled in elegant locks that cascaded down her shoulders. Diamond studs sparkled in her ears. Her makeup was flawless but subtle. She looked like money. She looked like power. She looked like everything Jerome Henderson had told her she would never be. And on her arm was Dominic Foster. 6 feet 2 inches of confidence, wearing a tailored black suit. His hand rested on the small of her back, protective but not possessive. His presence announced to everyone watching that Nicole Robinson was not alone. She was loved. She was cherished. She was chosen. The whispers started immediately. Is that Nicole? I thought she and Jerome divorced 3 years ago. Look at her. She looks amazing. Who is that man with her? Nicole kept her eyes forward as she walked down the aisle. She had promised Patricia she would come. She would keep that promise. But she would do it on her own terms. She felt his eyes before she saw him. Jerome Henderson sat in the front pew, his face frozen in shock. His mouth hung open slightly. His eyes went from Nicole's face to her suit to the man beside her and back again. He looked like he had seen a ghost. No. He looked like he had seen his past mistakes walking toward him in designer clothes. Nicole did not smile. She did not frown. She kept her face peaceful and calm as she found a seat in the middle section of the church. Dominic sat beside her, their shoulders touching. He squeezed her hand once. She squeezed back. This was the woman Jerome had called nothing. This was the woman he had mocked and belittled for years. This was the woman he had told would never survive without him. The pastor began to speak about Patricia Henderson's life. Her kindness, her faith, her devotion to her family. Nicole listened and remembered the woman who had pulled her aside at her wedding and said, "My son doesn't deserve you. But I'm glad you're my daughter now." Patricia had always known. She had always seen her son's flaws even when love made her silent about them. In her final days, she had made Nicole promise to come to this funeral. Not for Jerome. For Patricia. For closure. For the final chapter of a story that needed to end. Nicole closed her eyes and let the memories wash over her. 3 years ago, she had stood in her living room wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her heart was shattered into a million pieces. And Jerome had stood in front of her with his suitcase packed, looking at her with disgust. "You really think you can make it without me?" he had said. His voice was cold. His eyes were colder. "You have no education, no skills, no connections. You'll be begging me to come back within a month." He had laughed then. Actually laughed. Like her pain was entertainment. "Face it, Nicole. You're nothing without me. You'll always be nothing." Those words had burned themselves into her brain. They had kept her awake at night. They had made her cry in the shower so no one could hear. They had almost broken her completely. Almost. But Nicole had taken those words and turned them into fuel. Every time she wanted to give up, she heard his voice. Every time she wanted to quit, she remembered his laughter. Every time doubt crept in, she saw his face as he called her nothing. And she worked harder. Now she sat in this church with a 7-figure business, a man who adored her, and a peace in her heart that Jerome could never understand. She had built a life so beautiful that it would have seemed like fantasy 3 years ago. The service continued. People went up to share memories of Patricia. Nicole listened to each one. When it was over, she would go to the grave site. She would pay her respects to the woman who had shown her kindness even when her son showed her cruelty. And then she would leave this chapter behind forever. Dominic leaned close to her ear. "You okay?" Nicole nodded. "I'm exactly where I need to be." She felt Jerome's eyes on her throughout the entire service. She never looked back at him. He didn't deserve her attention anymore. He had lost that right years ago when he chose to break her instead of build her up. The pastor asked everyone to bow their heads for a final prayer. Nicole bowed her head but kept her eyes open. She looked at her hands. The hands that had mixed hair products in a tiny apartment kitchen. The hands that had packed orders until 3 in the morning. The hands that had signed a $1 million investment contract. These hands had built everything Jerome said she couldn't have. And now those same hands wore a 3-carat engagement ring from a man who saw her worth from the very beginning. The prayer ended. The service was over. People began to stand and move toward the exits. Nicole stood with them, Dominic rising beside her. This was just the beginning of today. But it was the end of something else. The end of Jerome Henderson having any power over her life. Nicole took a deep breath and walked forward. She had a grave to visit and a promise to keep. After that, she would return to the life she had built from nothing. From the nothing Jerome said she was. She almost smiled at the irony. Almost. 3 years and 2 months earlier, Nicole came home from work with a headache and a bag of groceries. She was planning to make Jerome's favorite dinner. Baked chicken with rice and gravy. Maybe that would put him in a better mood. He had been so distant lately. So cold. She told herself it was stress from his job. The marketing firm he worked for was going through changes. He was up for a promotion. That's all it was. She told herself a lot of lies back then. Nicole put the groceries on the kitchen counter and went to their bedroom to change. The house was quiet. Jerome's car was in the driveway, but she didn't hear him anywhere. Maybe he was in the basement office. She pushed open the bedroom door, and her whole world collapsed. Jerome was sitting on the edge of their bed. A woman was beside him. They were fully clothed, but the intimacy between them was obvious. The way she leaned into him. The way his hand rested on her thigh. The way they both jumped when Nicole appeared. Nicole knew this woman. Brianna Collins. She worked at Jerome's firm. She had been at their house for a barbecue last summer. Nicole had made her a plate. Had asked about her family. Had treated her like a guest. Nicole, Jerome said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Close the door. We need to talk. The woman didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She looked at Nicole with something close to pity. Like Nicole was the one who should be embarrassed. How long? Nicole's voice came out as a whisper. Jerome sighed. Like this conversation was boring him. Does it matter? How long? 8 months. 8 months. He had been sleeping with this woman for 8 months while coming home to Nicole every night. While eating her food. While sleeping in her bed. While letting her plan for their future. Get out, Nicole said to the woman. Brianna looked at Jerome. He nodded once. She stood, gathered her purse, and walked past Nicole without a word. Without an apology. Without anything. Nicole heard the front door close. She stared at her husband. The man she had married 5 years ago. The man she had supported through job losses and family drama and every hard time. The man she had loved with everything she had. I want a divorce, Nicole said. Jerome laughed. He actually laughed. You're being dramatic. I want a divorce. He stood up and walked toward her. And where exactly are you going to go? Back to your mama's house? That apartment with the roaches? He stepped closer. You don't have money. You don't have a degree. You don't have anything. I have my dignity. Jerome laughed again. Dignity doesn't pay rent, Nicole. She started packing that night. Jerome didn't try to stop her. He sat in the living room watching television like nothing was happening. Like his wife wasn't upstairs putting her life in boxes. When she came downstairs with her first suitcase, he finally spoke. You'll be back. Nicole stopped. She turned to look at him. He was sprawled on the couch like a king on his throne. You'll realize you can't survive out there without me, he continued. And you'll come back begging. I would rather die. His face changed then. The mask slipped. She saw the cruelty underneath. The same cruelty that had made small comments over the years. The same cruelty that had made her feel small and stupid and worthless. She had always made excuses for it. She had always blamed herself. Not anymore. You're nothing, Jerome said. His voice was quiet but sharp. You've always been nothing. I gave you everything you have. This house. Those clothes. That car. He gestured around. Without me, you'll end up exactly where you started. Broke and alone. Nicole gripped her suitcase handle. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. But she didn't cry. She refused to give him that. I'm going to prove you wrong, she said. Jerome smiled. It was the cruelest smile she had ever seen. No, you won't. Because you can't. Some people are meant to be successful and some people aren't. You're not. You never were. Nicole turned and walked out the door. She sat in her car for 10 minutes before she could drive. The shaking wouldn't stop. The tears finally came. She cried until her chest hurt. Until her throat was raw. But then she wiped her face. Started the engine. And drove away. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't know what she was going to do. But she knew one thing for certain. She was never going back to that house. And she was never going back to being the woman who believed she was nothing. Nicole drove to her best friend Tasha's apartment. Tasha opened the door, took one look at her face, and pulled her inside without a word. That night, lying on Tasha's couch, Nicole made a decision. She would build a new life. A better life. A life so successful that Jerome Henderson would choke on his own words. She didn't know how yet. She didn't know when. But she knew she would. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't anger. It's success. Tasha's apartment was small. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that barely fit 2 people. But to Nicole it felt like freedom. Stay as long as you need, Tasha said on that first night. I mean it. Nicole had known Tasha since high school. They had been through everything together. First heartbreaks, bad jobs, family drama. Tasha was more than a friend. She was a sister. I can't take advantage of you, Nicole said. Tasha rolled her eyes. Girl, please. You helped me when I lost my job 2 years ago. You let me stay with you and Jerome for 3 months. That was different. How? Nicole didn't have an answer. Tasha handed her a pillow and a blanket. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we figure out your next move. But Nicole couldn't sleep. She lay on that couch staring at the ceiling, Jerome's words playing on repeat in her head. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. She had $37 in her personal account. Jerome controlled all their finances. She had trusted him completely. Another mistake she would never make again. The next morning, Nicole started making calls. She found a job at a retail store within a week. It was minimum wage, but it was something. She found a second job waitressing at a diner 3 nights a week. She worked, and worked, and worked. Every morning she woke up at 6. Every night she collapsed into the couch at midnight. Her feet hurt constantly. Her back ached. But she kept going. Between shifts she started taking online courses. Business fundamentals, marketing basics, accounting principles. She used the free Wi-Fi at the library when Tasha's internet was slow. She took notes in a spiral notebook she bought for 99 cents. You're going to burn yourself out, Tasha said one night. Nicole was at the kitchen table with her laptop, studying while eating leftover pasta. I can't stop now. You need rest. I'll rest when I have something to show for all this work. Tasha sat down across from her. What exactly are you trying to prove? Nicole stopped eating. She thought about the question. Really thought about it. I'm not trying to prove anything to him, she finally said. I'm proving something to myself. That I'm capable. That I have value. That everything he said about me was wrong. Tasha nodded slowly. Okay, then let me help you. You're already helping me. No, I mean really help. Tasha leaned forward. I have some money saved. Not a lot, but some. If you want to start something, a business or whatever, I can invest. Nicole's eyes filled with tears. Tasha, don't argue with me. We're going to build something together. Well, you're going to build it and I'm going to cheer you on and give you my credit card when you need supplies. Nicole laughed through her tears. For the first time in weeks, she felt something other than pain. She felt hope. The months passed slowly. Nicole kept working her 2 jobs. She kept taking her courses. She started watching videos about entrepreneurship late at night when she should have been sleeping. One night, she was doing her hair in Tasha's tiny bathroom. She had been struggling to find products that worked for her natural curls without costing a fortune. Everything was either too expensive or full of chemicals she couldn't pronounce. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair was dry and brittle. The stress was showing. And then she had an idea. What if she made her own products? Her grandmother used to make hair treatments from natural ingredients. Shea butter and coconut oil and honey. Nicole remembered the smell. She remembered how soft her hair always felt afterward. She started researching that night. She found recipes online and modified them with her grandmother's techniques. She bought ingredients from the grocery store and mixed them in Tasha's kitchen. The first batch was a disaster. It was too thick and smelled weird. She threw it out and tried again. The second batch was better. She tried it on her own hair and the results were good. Not great, but good. The third batch was something special. Her curls were defined and soft and shiny. She smelled like vanilla and lavender. She felt beautiful for the first time in months. Let me try some, Tasha said. The next morning, Tasha's hair looked amazing. She kept touching it and smiling. Nicole, she said seriously. This is it. This is your business. Nicole looked at the jars of cream on the counter. She had made them herself. With her own hands. Her own recipes. Her own work. Jerome had said she was nothing. But she was starting to feel like something. Something real. Nicole made 20 jars of her hair cream and gave them to Tasha's co-workers to try. She called it testing the product. Tasha called it the start of your empire. The feedback came within a week. My curls have never looked this good. I need more. How much do you charge? Can you make something for dry scalp too? Nicole sat at Tasha's kitchen table surrounded by handwritten notes. People wanted her products. They were willing to pay for them. This wasn't just a hobby anymore. This was an opportunity, but she had no idea how to actually start a business. So she learned. She spent hours at the library researching business licenses and permits and regulations. She learned about liability insurance and product labeling requirements. She watched videos about pricing strategies and profit margins. It was overwhelming. Every time she learned one thing, 5 more questions popped up. But she kept going. She named her business Crown Natural, because every woman deserved to feel like royalty. Tasha helped her design a simple logo using free software online. They printed labels at the office supply store. They bought jars in bulk from a wholesale website. Every penny of Nicole's savings went into supplies. The first official batch was 50 jars. Nicole lined them up on Tasha's coffee table and took a picture. She posted it on social media with a simple message, "Handmade hair care for queens. DM to order." She sold all 50 jars in 3 days. Nicole cried when the last one sold. Not sad tears. Overwhelmed tears. She had done something. She had created something from nothing. Just like Jerome said she couldn't. She made another batch. 75 jars this time. Those sold in 4 days. The orders kept coming. Nicole was mixing products before her morning shift and packaging orders after her night shift. She wasn't sleeping more than 4 hours a night. Her hands were constantly sticky with shea butter. But she had never been happier. One day, a woman named Pamela contacted her. Pamela owned a natural hair salon on the other side of town. She had seen Nicole's products online and wanted to meet. Nicole walked into that salon nervous and excited. The place was beautiful. Big windows and plants and comfortable chairs. Women were getting their hair done and laughing and looking gorgeous. Pamela was tall with long locks and kind eyes. She shook Nicole's hand firmly. "I tried your curl cream," Pamela said. "It's one of the best I've ever used." Nicole's heart jumped. "Thank you. I want to sell it in my salon. I'll buy 20 jars a week to start. We can talk about more if my clients like it." Nicole tried to stay professional, but inside she was screaming. "That sounds wonderful. One condition," Pamela said. "You need to think bigger. This can't just be a side thing. You have real talent. You need to treat this like a real business." Nicole nodded. "I'm trying." Pamela smiled. "Try harder. This could be something special." That night, Nicole quit her retail job. She kept the waitressing gig for now because she needed the steady income. But she put all her extra time into Crown Natural. She developed new products. A deep conditioner. A scalp oil. Edge control. Each one took weeks of testing and adjusting. She was obsessed with getting them perfect. The salon sales were steady. Pamela's clients loved the products. They started asking for Nicole by name. Some of them even wanted to meet her. Nicole began going to the salon on weekends to meet customers and talk about hair care. She learned what people needed, what they struggled with, what they wished existed, and she created products to fill those gaps. Crown Natural went from a kitchen experiment to a real business with real customers and real momentum. Nicole opened a separate bank account. She filed for a business license. She created a simple website. Jerome had said she had no skills, but she was developing them. He said she had no connections, but she was building them. He said she would be nothing, but she was becoming something more each day, and she was just getting started. The email came on a Tuesday morning. Nicole stirred her drink. "I know that. Logically. But sometimes I still hear his voice. When something goes wrong or when I make a mistake." She looked down. "I hate that he still has that power over me." Dominic reached across the table and touched her hand. Just a light touch. "He only has power if you give it to him. You've built something incredible, Nicole. You did that. Not him. Not anyone else." Nicole looked at his hand on hers. She didn't pull away. "I'm still figuring out who I am," she said quietly. "That's okay. We all are." He smiled. "But whoever you're becoming, I'd like to be around to see it." Nicole felt the flutter again. This time she didn't push it down. Maybe she wasn't ready for a relationship, but maybe she was ready to see where this could go. Whatever this was. Jerome Henderson was having a bad year. Actually, it had been a bad 2 years. It started when his business partner Robert stole $200,000 from their company and disappeared to Florida. Jerome was left with debts he couldn't pay and clients who didn't trust him. The marketing firm collapsed within 6 months. Then Brianna left. Of course she did. She was never there for him. She was there for the lifestyle. The dinners and the trips and the designer bags. When the money stopped flowing, so did she. "I need to focus on my career," she said as she packed her things. "We can still be friends." They were not still friends. Jerome moved into a small apartment on the wrong side of town. He drove a used Honda now instead of his BMW. He worked as a sales associate at a furniture store where his boss was 10 years younger than him. Every day felt like punishment, and every day he thought about Nicole. He had searched for her online and found her business, Crown Natural. He saw the website with the professional photos and the glowing testimonials. He saw the social media posts with thousands of likes and comments. He saw his ex-wife becoming successful without him. Made him sick. She was supposed to fail. She was supposed to come crawling back like he said she would. That was how it was supposed to go. But Nicole didn't follow the script. Nicole had rewritten the entire story. Jerome called her once. She didn't answer. He called again. Straight to voicemail. He sent a text message. Can we talk? I want to apologize. She never responded. He told himself he didn't care. He told himself she wasn't worth his time anyway. But late at night, alone in his empty apartment, the truth crept in. He had thrown away the best thing in his life. And now she was thriving while he was drowning. The news about Crown Natural getting featured in a major beauty magazine came through one of his old colleagues. Jerome was scrolling through social media at work when he saw the article. Nicole's face was on the cover. Her smile was radiant. The headline read, "From kitchen table to national brand, the Crown Natural success story." Jerome's hands were shaking as he read the article. Nicole talked about starting her business with nothing. About working 2 jobs while developing her products. About believing in herself when no one else did. She didn't mention him by name. She didn't have to. He knew who the no one was. That night, Jerome sat in his apartment with a bottle of whiskey. He had ruined everything. His business, his marriage, his life. And the woman he had called nothing was becoming everything he wished he could be. He thought about calling her again. Maybe if he apologized hard enough. Maybe if he explained that he had changed. But changed into what? A broke, lonely, bitter man living in a studio apartment? No. Nicole was better off without him. She had always been better off without him. He just hadn't seen it. Or maybe he had seen it and that's why he tried so hard to make her feel small. Because deep down he knew she was bigger than him. Jerome finished the whiskey and fell asleep on his couch. The next morning he saw the news that would change everything. His mother was in the hospital. Patricia Henderson had collapsed at church. They said it was her heart. She was stable but it didn't look good. Jerome drove to the hospital with tears streaming down his face. His mother was the only person who had always loved him unconditionally. The only person who had never given up on him. He sat beside her bed and held her hand. "I'm sorry, Mama," he whispered. "I'm sorry for everything." Patricia opened her eyes. She looked at her son with love and sadness. "You need to fix your life, Jerome," she said softly. "You need to become the man I raised you to be." Jerome nodded. "I will. I promise." But even as he said the words, he wasn't sure they were true. Some things were easier to break than to fix. Dominic took Nicole to New York for a business meeting. At least that's what he told her. Crown Natural had been growing faster than Nicole could handle alone. She had moved production to a small warehouse space. She had hired 3 employees. But demand was outpacing supply and she needed capital to expand. Dominic knew investors. People with money who were looking for exactly this kind of opportunity. He arranged a meeting with a group called Horizon Ventures. Nicole was terrified. "What if they say no?" she asked on the plane. Dominic took her hand. "Then we find someone else." "But they won't say no." "How do you know?" "Because your business is solid and your story is inspiring and you're going to walk in there and show them exactly who you are." Nicole looked at him. This man who had believed in her from the beginning. Who had never doubted her even when she doubted herself. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You don't have to thank me. Just get that funding and buy me dinner." She laughed. "Deal." The meeting was in a high-rise building with glass walls and modern furniture. Nicole wore her best business suit. She had practiced her pitch 100 times. But when she walked into that conference room and saw 6 investors staring at her, her mind went blank. Then she took a breath. She thought about everything she had survived. Everything she had built. Everything Jerome said she couldn't do. And she started talking. She told them about Crown Natural. The products, the market, the growth projections. She told them about her customers and their stories. She told them about her vision for a national brand that empowered women to embrace their natural beauty. She spoke for 30 minutes. When she finished, there was silence. Then the lead investor smiled. "We're in." Nicole almost fell over. "What?" "We want to invest. Let's talk numbers." The rest of the meeting was a blur. They offered $300,000 for a minority stake. Nicole negotiated for better terms like Dominic had taught her. They settled on a deal that made everyone happy. When she walked out of that building, Nicole started crying. Dominic wrapped his arms around her. You did it. We did it. No. This was all you. That night, they had dinner at a beautiful restaurant overlooking the city. The lights sparkled like diamonds below them. Nicole felt like she was in a dream. After dinner, Dominic took her to Central Park. They walked along the paths in the cool evening air. The city hummed around them, but it felt like they were the only two people in the world. Dominic stopped beside a fountain. Nicole, he said, I need to tell you something. Her heart started beating faster. What? He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. Nicole's breath caught. I know we said we were taking things slow, Dominic said. I know you've been through a lot and you needed time to heal. But I want you to know that I love you. I love who you are and who you're becoming. I love your strength and your kindness and your determination. He opened the box. A diamond ring sparkled in the moonlight. Will you marry me? Nicole couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face. She thought about everything that had led to this moment. The pain and the struggle and the work. She thought about Jerome telling her she was nothing. She thought about the woman she used to be and the woman she had become. Yes, she whispered. Dominic slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Just like him. Just like this new life she had built. He kissed her and the city cheered around them. Nicole Robinson was engaged to a man who loved her completely. And she had never felt more like herself. Nicole got the call from a number she didn't recognize. Hello? Nicole? This is Patricia Henderson. Nicole almost dropped her phone. She hadn't spoken to Jerome's mother since the divorce. Mrs. Henderson? I know this is unexpected, but I need to see you. Please. The conversation was brief. Patricia explained that she was dying. Heart failure. The doctors had given her weeks, maybe days. I have things I need to say to you, Patricia said. Things that can't wait. Nicole drove to the hospital that afternoon. She sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes before she could go inside. This woman had always been kind to her. Had always treated her like a daughter. But seeing her meant getting close to Jerome's orbit again. Close to the pain she had worked so hard to leave behind. She went anyway. Patricia looked small in the hospital bed. Her skin was gray and her breathing was labored. But her eyes were still sharp. Thank you for coming, she said. Nicole sat beside her and took her hand. Of course. I've been following your business. Your success. Patricia smiled weakly. I always knew you were special. I tried to tell Jerome but he never listened. Nicole felt tears building. Mrs. Henderson. Let me finish. Please. Patricia squeezed her hand. I'm sorry for what my son did to you. I'm sorry for the way he treated you. I should have said something years ago. I should have defended you. It wasn't your responsibility. Maybe not. But I still should have done it. Patricia coughed softly. He's struggling now. Lost everything. I know you probably don't care and I don't blame you. But I want you to know that he's paying for what he did. Life has a way of balancing things out. Nicole didn't know what to say. Part of her felt satisfaction. Part of her felt nothing at all. I need to ask you something, Patricia continued. When I pass, there's going to be a funeral. At Greater Hope Baptist. I want you to come. Nicole hesitated. I don't think that's a good idea. Please. Not for Jerome. For me. Patricia's eyes were pleading. You were the best daughter I never had. I want you there to say goodbye. Nicole looked at this woman who had shown her kindness when her own husband showed her cruelty. This woman who was asking for one final favor. Okay, Nicole said. I'll come. Patricia closed her eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek. Thank you. They talked for another hour. About Nicole's business and her engagement. About Patricia's life and her regrets. About forgiveness and moving forward. When Nicole left that hospital room, she knew she would never see Patricia again. She visited 2 more times before the end. Each time, Patricia was weaker. Each time, she held Nicole's hand and told her she was proud of her. Patricia Henderson died on a Sunday morning. The funeral was scheduled for Saturday. Nicole told Dominic everything. About the visits, the promise, the complicated emotions she was feeling. I'll go with you, he said immediately. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. He took her hands. You shouldn't have to face that alone. Whatever you need, I'm there. Nicole looked at this man who had become her partner in every way. In business and in life. In happiness and in pain. I love you, she said. I love you too. Now let's figure out what you're wearing to that funeral. Nicole laughed despite everything. Saturday was coming. And with it, the closing of a chapter she thought she had finished years ago. But some chapters need proper endings. And this one was finally getting hers. Nicole woke up on Saturday morning with butterflies in her stomach. She had laid out her outfit the night before. The cream Chanel suit she had bought to celebrate her first major investment deal. The diamond studs Dominic had given her for her birthday. The engagement ring that sparkled on her finger. She was going to look like exactly what she was. A successful, confident, happy woman. Dominic was already dressed when she came out of the bathroom. He looked handsome in his black suit. He looked strong and steady and safe. You ready? He asked. No. That's okay. Let's go anyway. They drove to Greater Hope Baptist Church in silence. Nicole watched the streets pass by and remembered driving this same route for Sunday services when she was married. She remembered sitting in the pews with Jerome, pretending everything was fine. She wasn't pretending anymore. The parking lot was full when they arrived. Nicole took a deep breath. Last chance to back out, she said. Dominic turned off the car. You made a promise to Patricia. You keep your promises. That's who you are. He was right. That was who she was. They walked toward the church together. Nicole held her head high. Her heels clicked on the concrete. The sun was bright and the air was cool. She was ready. The doors opened and they stepped inside. The church was packed. Every pew was full. Flowers lined the altar. Patricia's picture sat on an easel near the casket. And then the whisper started. Nicole saw heads turning. Eyes widening. People nudging each other and pointing. She heard her name ripple through the crowd like a wave. She kept walking. Dominic's hand was warm on her back. His presence was solid beside her. She wasn't the woman who used to walk these aisles alone and afraid. She was someone new. Someone stronger. Then she saw Jerome. He was in the front pew in a black suit that looked slightly too big for him. He had lost weight. His face was gaunt and tired. He looked like a man who had been beaten by life. And he was staring at her with an expression she would never forget. Disbelief. Longing. All of it mixed together on his face as he watched his ex-wife walk down the aisle looking like everything he said she could never be. Nicole didn't smile. She didn't frown. She simply acknowledged his existence with a brief glance and kept walking. She found a seat in the middle section. Dominic sat beside her. His knee touched hers, grounding her, reminding her who she was now. The service began. The pastor spoke about Patricia's faith and her kindness and her love for her family. Friends and relatives went up to share memories. Nicole listened to every word. She had loved Patricia. That was true even now. This woman had seen something in Nicole that her own son had been too blind to see. When the service ended, Nicole stood with the congregation. She would go to the gravesite. She would pay her final respects. And then she would leave this chapter behind forever. As people filed toward the exits, she felt someone approaching. She knew who it was without looking. Nicole. Jerome's voice was rough. Broken. She turned to face him. He looked even worse up close. His eyes were red. His hands were trembling. I can't do this here, Nicole said calmly. Please. I just need 5 minutes. Dominic stepped forward. She said no. Jerome looked at Dominic. Really looked at him. The expensive suit. The protective stance. The engagement ring on Nicole's finger. Who is this? Jerome asked. My fiancé, Nicole said. Dominic Foster. Jerome's face crumpled. Just for a moment. Then he pulled it back together. After the burial, he said. Please. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. Nicole considered refusing. She owed him nothing. Not her time, not her words, not her attention. But she thought about Patricia's words in the hospital. Life has a way of balancing things out. Maybe this was part of that balance. 5 minutes, she said. After the burial. Then I'm gone. Jerome nodded quickly. Thank you. Nicole walked away without another word. Dominic followed. You don't have to talk to him, Dominic said quietly. I know. But I think I need to. She looked at her fiancé. I need to close this door properly, so it never opens again. Dominic studied her face. Then he nodded. I'll be right beside you. I know you will. They walked out into the sunlight together. The burial was next. And then the ending. The gravesite was peaceful. Green grass and old trees and a cool breeze that carried the smell of flowers. Nicole stood with the other mourners as the casket was lowered into the ground. She thought about Patricia. About the kindness she had shown. About the apology she had offered at the end. Rest well, she thought. You deserve better than what life gave you. When the burial was over, people began dispersing. Some headed to the family home for the repast. Others went to their cars. Jerome approached Nicole slowly. He moved like a man walking toward his own execution. Dominic stood close but gave them space. Close enough to step in if needed. Far enough to give Nicole her moment. Thank you for coming, Jerome said. His voice was barely above a whisper. I came for your mother. Not for you. I know. He looked down at his shoes. She loved you. She always said I didn't deserve you. She was right. Jerome flinched. But he didn't argue. I know I can't fix what I did, he continued. I know sorry isn't enough. But I need you to know that I was wrong. About everything. He looked up and his eyes were wet. You're not nothing, Nicole. You never were. I said those things because I was scared. Scared of what? Scared that you were better than me. Scared that if you realized it, you would leave. He laughed bitterly. So I tried to make you small. To keep you down. And I lost you anyway. Nicole listened to his words. She waited for the anger to come. The satisfaction. The vindication. But she felt nothing. No, that wasn't true. She felt peace. She felt closure. I'm not going to tell you it's okay, she said. Because it's not. You broke me, Jerome. You made me feel worthless and stupid and small. It took me years to undo that damage. I know. But I did undo it. Without you. Without anyone. She straightened her shoulders. I built a business and a life and a future. I found a man who loves me the way I deserve to be loved. I became everything you said I couldn't be. Jerome nodded slowly. Tears were falling down his cheeks. So here's what I want you to know, Nicole continued. I don't hate you. I don't wish bad things on you. But I don't forgive you either. Forgiveness isn't something you're owed just because you ask for it. It's something that's earned. And you haven't earned it. I understand. Good. Nicole looked at this man who used to control her entire world. He seems so small now. So insignificant. Goodbye, Jerome. I hope you find a way to become the man your mother believed you could be. She turned and walked away. Dominic fell into step beside her. He took her hand and squeezed it. You okay? He asked. Nicole thought about the question. She thought about the woman she used to be and the woman she was now. She thought about the journey between those two versions of herself. Yeah, she said. I'm okay. They got in the car and drove away from the cemetery. Nicole didn't look back. 3 months later. The grand opening of Crown Naturals' flagship store was everything Nicole had dreamed of. The space was beautiful. Bright and modern with her products displayed like works of art. The guest list included investors, journalists, influencers, and loyal customers who had been with her from the beginning. Tasha was there with a glass of champagne and tears in her eyes. Pamela was there with her salon team. Dominic was there looking at Nicole like she was the most incredible thing he had ever seen. Nicole stood in the middle of her store and looked around. This was hers. She had built it with her own hands and her own heart and her own refusal to give up. A journalist approached her for a quote. What's the secret to your success? She asked. Nicole thought about the question. She could talk about hard work and determination and believing in yourself. All of that was true. But the real answer was simpler than that. Someone told me I was nothing, Nicole said. I decided to prove him wrong. The journalist scribbled in her notebook. Nicole smiled. That night, after the store closed and the guests went home, Nicole and Dominic stood alone in the empty space. The lights were dimmed. The champagne was gone. It was just them. I'm proud of you, Dominic said. I'm proud of me too. He laughed and pulled her close. So what's next? Nicole thought about the question. There was so much still to do. More products to develop. More stores to open. A wedding to plan. A life to build. Everything, she said. Everything is next. Dominic kissed her. Nicole kissed him back. Outside, the city sparkled with lights and possibilities. Inside, Nicole stood in the business she had built from nothing. From the nothing someone once told her she was. She smiled. And the future had never looked brighter.